The contents of the following conversation are not endorsed in any way by the United States Army, its Reserve and Guard components, or any entity of the United States Armed Forces. Opinions, guidance, and anything mentioned within the conversation are strictly the viewpoints of the individuals involved. Hello, and thank you so much for checking out this episode of the Lost LT podcast. Basically, our aim is to provide guidance, insight, and maybe some direction to aspiring and possibly current Army active duty, reserve, or Guard officers out there. It is our hope that the conversations that take place within this podcast will provide some help and act as a resource to anyone that may be lost in the sauce. Hello, everyone, and thank you for checking out this episode of Lost LT podcast. And, I had this huge introduction, long-winded and lengthy, but screw it, let's just dive right in there. What's up, Nelson?
Not too much. Just excited to be here.
Yeah, for sure. Well, go ahead and just introduce yourself. We'll start there.
Yep. I'm First Lieutenant James Nelson, Arizona Army National Guard. I'm not sure if I'm supposed to say that or not, but there it is.
Yeah, it's out now. Yeah, I mean, hopefully the disclaimers cover our asses for most of this stuff. But I'm First Lieutenant Steve Damon, and also with the Arizona National Guard. And I mean, mostly going to focus this on you and your journey to becoming an officer, but I'll interject when I can. And part of why I brought you on here is because we both went through, pretty much the same path to commissioning back in 2016. And I'll just refer to you as James too. I know that's really hard for me to do. But I guess we'll just start from the beginning. What drew you to the Army?
I actually wanted to join when I was 18. I graduated high school in 2001, so just before 9/11, and decided to go to a trade school instead. And it was one of those things that I was kind of regretted not doing. And so as a 30-year-old, just before I got married actually to my wife, I said, hey, I want to join the Army. What do you think? And she said, well, you're not getting any younger, so if you're going to do it now. So I jumped into it.
So that's like two little nuggets of information that your wife provided, or motivation, I think. I know I'll get to the other one later. You're not getting younger. That's pretty brutal, but that's honest.
In a loving way, of course.
Yeah, of course. Do you have family that served prior, or like what?
Yeah, so for the most part, no one in my family was in. My grandfather and my great-grandfather went, but that was the last. So two different sides of the family. So my grandfather was World War II era and then Korea. So nice. He went Navy originally and then Marine Corps. So originally I wanted to join the Marine Corps actually, and then when I went to join later on in life, I was too old. So the Air Force and the Marine Corps both said the Navy and the Marine Corps said I was too old. So
I thought you could be 35 by the time you enlist.
It was 27.
Really?
Yep.
That must be new. I'm already want to fact check that, but whatever.
I think at one point, at the height of conflict, they were letting just about anybody in.
Right.
But after that, once they were trying to draw everyone down, they had lowered the ages back down. So
I guess it depends on who's in office without getting political. If there's a drawdown, they get more selective. But I remember seeing, like, when I was 18, I was like, oh man, I have 35 to make up my mind and finally join. But moving on, so Army though, actually military just in general, you just said you always wanted to, or any?
Yeah, I originally, I dated my then wife after the fact, and she was very like anti-military. So it was one of those things, I was young and in love and didn't want to, rock the boat too much, so I didn't do it. And then again, on marriage number 2, my wife was all about it. So, or maybe not all about it, but she was supportive. So
right.
I had no restrictions there.
Was it hard just saying, hey, I'm 30, I'm going to go pursue this crazy thing with a bunch of kids, or what was that like?
That was the tough part, because I had already owned my own business at this point and gone back through school and got my degree and then worked in a professional career, and then kind of flipping that mindset to know I was going to be with a bunch of 18 to early 20s and have to kind of go through those mental mind games, just stuff that didn't make sense, knowing that I couldn't win,
right,
type of thing. That was something I kind of took ownership in before I went, so that made it a lot easier. But, after being there for 10, 12 weeks, it was one of those things where I just wanted to choke everybody out. But I was in charge for most of it because I knew I was going to go the officer route. So I just kind of had to swallow that and drive on.
So you already had your degree, you already had a business, you said,
mm-hmm.
and a pretty good career, I imagine, or just, you weren't lost, right?
No.
As most people, unfortunately, look at the military like a last resort, like, well, I've got nothing else going for me. what else I've got to lose, but that wasn't the case with you.
No, like I said, I waited a lot longer than I had originally anticipated, and I worked on the civilian side, a military-focused company. So kind of starting with them, I think I had been there for 6 months before I said, hey, you know what, if I'm going to do it, I better do it now. So,
Gotcha. Why officer? Like, why not enlisted?
I thought about both sides, but having the degree was obviously one of the prerequisites for being an officer, or at least going through that process. With owning my business, I already kind of had that leadership experience,
Right.
and then in a couple different places, I had trained employees, peers, basically, when they started with a couple different companies. So I already kind of had that mindset, and I figured if I didn't necessarily agree with everything that was going on, politically and military wise. So I figured if I was going to do it, I wanted to be able to at least make it better, or try to.
Right.
Naive me thinking I can make it better, but
What do they call it? You sweet summer child, you.
Yeah.
Game of Thrones, right? Do you watch Game of Thrones?
I don't actually. I'm
Okay,
one of
well,
those people, like the 1% that doesn't watch
one of
it.
those like cool people that don't watch it.
No, I just have kids
Oh.
and no cable.
That'll do it. Well, that will be lost on a lot of people then, but that's adorable. Young and naive, full of wonder. But I guess what was the biggest challenge for you prior to getting ready for BCT? Just again, you kind of had to make yourself ready for those mental games. But was there any other? I mean, you had to put your whole life on hold, and most people, again, if it's like their last resort, it's like, oh, I can show up whenever you want me to. But what was it like for you?
Yeah, so I actually enlisted just after I got married, even though I knew I was gonna do it before I got married. And putting I had a pretty good career, even though I just started with that company. I wasn't brand new to the industry or anything like that. So putting that on hold, and my wife and I were trying to have a baby, our first kid. So that was one of those things that I kept hoping secretly in the back of my mind that I'd get a letter saying, hey, guess what, I'm pregnant. But that didn't happen. So that just delayed that by a few months. And then little did we know that was going to be a harder process than we originally had thought. We figured, hey, it's probably going to happen before we even get married. We'll be like one of those people trying to hide a pregnancy type thing. But that didn't end up being the case. So kind of putting all that stuff on hold, putting my career on hold for a minute. That was kind of the biggest part of it.
What do you mean by, hey, I want to be one of those people that got a letter? You're talking about like at basic?
Yeah, like
I
a
see.
letter saying like, hey, my wife's 2 months along or something like that, and we didn't know, or she waited to tell me as a surprise or something like that. But that didn't happen. So.
Got it. Yeah, I mean, I can imagine it's a little bit different for you. Again, essentially putting your like actual life on hold. But you went to BCT, so where'd you go?
Fort Jackson.
Relaxing Jackson.
Something like that.
Yeah.
I know our drill sergeants had a big chip on their shoulder about the nickname, the Relaxing Jackson nickname. So they were like, oh, if we're not going to be relaxing here, don't worry, we're going to make you earn it.
Nice.
So that made it interesting.
When did you go to BCT?
I went just after tax time because that's our busy time on my civilian job.
Right.
So I went in May of 2015. No, 2014.
May of 2014. Okay, man.
Yeah, 'cause I just hit 5
Just
years.
missed me. I went in January 4th of 2014, and I graduated in March, so it feels like, man, that's a long time ago. It's 2
A lot
lifetimes
has
ago.
happened since then.
A little bit, yeah. So Relaxing Jackson, do you have any memories of like how they made your life not as relaxing then?
I just remember getting, you always see that, get off my effing bus, whatever. And,
Yeah.
And people freaking out. And our probably most active drill sergeant was infantry. And he, to be honest with you, probably a little bit jacked up just from being deployed a couple times. He was awesome. He used to give me crap all the time about being old and being from California. And came to find out he was a year older than I was when he joined. And he was from within 20 minutes of where I grew up.
Nice.
So that was kind of cool. But he would just ride me all the time about that. But I remember getting off the bus, and you have to, the cattle trucks have all your bags and stuff on them. Or the LMTVs have all your bags on them. And mine was the one that was with a different platoon.
Of course.
So they're like, you have 3 minutes to get your bags and get ready to dump them. And I'm scrambling around. I can't find it anywhere. And they're marked with tape, so you can kind of find them easily. And I'm all over the place, freaking out, like, oh, great, I'm that guy. And mine was like
setting the example right away, or
yeah, like 2 platoons over, and I'm already in charge. Like day one, I got there, and like, okay, you're going to be an officer. You're in charge of this and this. So that was a fun start.
how was it? What did it feel like when like, oh, you're gonna be an officer? Like they already just kind of wrote you off and put that like target on your back.
Yeah, it was definitely a target. In my particular platoon, out of 52 people or whatever it was, I was the only one. Whereas the other 3 platoons had multiple people, so they traded off those jobs a lot. So there's like the platoon guide or the PG, and the barracks person, and there was a third one also. I was all three of them the entire time from like day one until I got fired the week before we were done.
Nice.
And that was because of someone else's mistake, and it was more of like a hate moment from a drill sergeant. So that was fun, getting fired in front of a couple hundred people.
Oh, but that's great.
Oh yeah.
And so you said I was the only one. You mean like designated 09 Sierra? Is that so? Did you have I'm trying to remember.
We didn't have any special badging or marking or anything. They just knew when I started. So they have you introduce yourself and what your MOS is, but they have your file already. So I think they knew before I even said anything.
Right.
And the fact that you go into reception first and you're there for basically a week while you're getting all your equipment and everything. I still won't say gear. OCS did that to me. So before we got our equipment, and then once we switched over to our actual platoon, from that original holding company to into the platoon, I was already in charge, quote unquote. So
funny question. A lot of people thought reception was like the way and the pace and the standard for the rest of how BCT was going to go. Did you know like it was going to get worse, or did you kind of fall into that also?
I had some friends that were prior service, so I asked a lot of questions, probably a lot of dumb questions, I'm sure, but I had an idea that it was just going to get stupid. And the fact that we still had our phones for part of that time.
Like, this is too good to be true.
Yeah, I'm like, this is not how it's going. I actually did have a kid. I was clear as day, I remember this story. A kid comes up to me and is like, hey, it's my bunk mate. And you can tell this kid's kind of squirrely to start with. And he's like, I need to talk to the drill sergeant. I'm like, okay, fine. I'm like, is there anything I should know before we go talk to him? He's like, no, I just need someone to come with me because you're never allowed to be alone.
Right.
So we get up there. There's one drill sergeant because it's like in the evening. And he goes, I'm going to kill myself.
Oh, jeez.
The first thing I thought was like, really? That didn't cross your mind and things you should tell me?
Yeah, not a big deal, right? Not at all.
And the Army probably won't be happy about me telling the story, but he looks at him dead in the eyes and goes, tonight? Question mark.
Oh, Jesus.
And he's like, no. He's like, all right, go back to the barracks. And I just remember thinking to myself, like, I'm a 30-year-old adult. This is like an 18, 19-year-old kid. That doesn't seem like the right answer at all.
Right.
Now I need to watch this kid. So we get back and he starts bawling his eyes out. He's crying in the bunk above me. And I'm just like, what the hell is going on? This doesn't seem right at all.
Yeah. Obviously, the Army doesn't take suicide in a joking manner at all. It's obviously a very big deal. And there's resources to combat that. So with this one drill sergeant, hope we're not outing anybody, but yeah, you're right. That was the wrong answer. So obviously the kid made it okay.
No, so he quit.
Oh, no, he didn't.
No, he made it. He's alive as far as I know.
I guess I should have prefaced that better.
Yeah, but they always told you your fastest way out of basic training is to make it through basic training.
Yeah.
So he went into one of the holding groups that just like served chow and did other stuff.
Stayed there forever, watched you guys go through all the phases and graduate and probably.
Exactly. So I'm pretty sure he was there the entire time.
Yeah.
Just kind of in the background and everyone saw him and just like, glad I'm not that kid. And there was a handful of people like that for different reasons got booted. So
yeah. I want to go back a little bit and just ask, like, how did you prepare for BCT? Like, you already knew it was going to be just a big mind, as they say. Might have to bleep that out, but that's what they call it. That's what it is. It's just a big mental game. So you knew that part, and I think that's probably the hardest. But how else did you prepare for this? You said you asked a bunch of dumb questions. Do you remember what some of those were? Like, what's going to happen to me? Or
yeah, I think one particular friend who has a very dark sense of humor, which I 100% understand now, would just give me like a little like, you're never gonna win. It's all a game. No matter what you do, you're gonna fail. Even if you're right, you're wrong. That type of stuff. And so that pretty much answered the majority of what I needed to know right there. But I did, like when I went in and said, hey, I want to be an officer, they gave me like this big packet, and I think it was basically to blow me off. So here's everything you need. Go.
Right.
And I came back like a week later with everything, all the documents they wanted, everything. Like, oh, okay, cool. Well, yeah, we'll get this process for you.
Crap,
like,
you actually did this.
Yes, I think this old guy actually wants to be here. But I followed the packing list to the T. I don't remember, like 5 pairs of socks, 5 pairs of underwear, 5 white T-shirts, whatever.
So you probably had a bunch of crap.
I get there with a full, civilian backpack full of stuff, and day one, they're like, dump all your shit out. And so everything gets dumped out, and people are like, my grandfather's pocket watch like goes in the trash.
Did they bring that?
Yeah. So and they warn you, don't bring that kind of stuff. But
yeah.
These kids like crying as he throws his grandfather's old pocket knife in the garbage, or in the amnesty box, aka the garbage. And people are pulling out full size bottles of shampoo and just dumb stuff you're not supposed to have, and they tell you you're not supposed to have. And everyone's got a bad attitude, like, oh, I'm gonna break those drill sergeants. Like, okay,
Yeah,
good.
let's see how that works.
Good idea.
I gotta love the I could never make basic, or I could never join the army because I'd punch somebody in the face that they got in my, like, that stupid saying, like, yeah, try it.
Yep.
They're just dying for the day to come and they're assaulted. But yeah, you just reminded me I had to part with my nail clippers because I'm just too, like, I overthink everything. You know this. And I had like this these really awesome nail clippers that had Canada like written on them and like the Canadian flag. And for some reason, they're like the best ones I ever had. And I stupidly brought that with me. That was like my only mistake.
What's wrong with you?
I don't know. I'm a terrible person. I should have got kicked out right then and there. But I dumped that in the amnesty box. Like, that sucked. That's probably my worst memory of BCT. What advice would you give to yourself at that BCT moment? So, like, just now that you've gone through that, moved on to OCS and BOLIC and have gotten a little bit wiser, is there anything that you would have told yourself back then that might have done differently? Or
probably just the same things my buddy told me.
Yeah.
You're never going to be right. Just deal with it and move on, and don't get pissed off. Just deal with it.
just take the hits.
Exactly. That was the one thing, just kind of in that one track mind of all I need to do is finish this and move on. Try to have fun when you can, which is almost never. Even when you're, rifle qualifying and stuff like that, which is something I enjoy doing. It's like, we're going to make this suck for you. Like, all right, sounds good.
It's like you suck the fun out of everything.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Literally.
that's
everything.
What OCS managed to do. But I enjoyed qualifying and being on the rifle range, and I really got to understand why people enjoy shooting. I don't want to say I'm anti-gun, but they make me really nervous. So I don't own any. That's slowly starting to change because I'm starting to enjoy them a lot more, and that's part of why I left the Air Force to join the Army, so I can be, familiar with being an actual soldier. And there was this one moment I had. It was freezing cold. It was rainy. And I think we're still trying to learn shot groups. And I just remember hearing the drill sergeant say, like, the only thing that matters right now is you and that target. And I got like super zen, like just focused on that. And I was like, oh, I think I get it now. Like, this is kind of cool. This is kind of therapeutic in a way. So
it definitely was fun though, because I didn't know how to shoot properly before.
Right.
I'm right-handed, so I'd always shot right eye dominant, and they said, hey, switch to your left, and I was like, well, this is weird, like, how would I do this? And I'm a pretty decent shot either way now, which is pretty cool. I can switch off. That and just knowing how to sight in a rifle correctly, because before it was always kind of like, all right, I missed it off to the left, I just need to pull over to the right a little bit and figure it out. But now I actually know how to sight it in correctly. And I joked around, I was always a pretty good shot, not perfect, but up until this last time I had to qualify, and I just
wondering if you can bring that up.
Yeah, no, I just rode myself into the ground.
Yep.
With it, and I was so mad, and my company commander's just riding me about it too. And at first I was like, no, I deserve it. And after a while I was like, man, shut up about this. I swear to God, don't say anything in front of my soldiers. And then of course he just says it in front of everyone. I'm like, oh, you bastard.
It's like, thanks, sir. I appreciate that.
Yep.
Was there anything in basic aside from possibly shooting that you enjoyed? Anything else that you remember?
I actually really enjoyed the confidence core stuff, getting to do the physical aspect of it, because I had worked my butt off to get in as good a shape as possible.
Right.
Yeah, so I was probably in the best shape I'd been in at that point in my life, or at least pretty close to it. So doing anything physical was really fun. Doing the confidence courses, PT was actually fun because I was running faster than I ever had before. And, they put you in different groups when it comes to physical fitness. There's like A group, B group.
Yeah, what group were you in?
I was in A group by the time we were done.
Nice.
Which I started out in the B group, like barely hanging in. So that's the fastest I ever run was at about 13:18, which is our max. And I had come in like just shy of that. So I actually maxed the run part out once. It was the only time I've ever done it.
Nice.
I just don't run fast consistently. I can run for days, but just not fast. So that was the one time I can say I did it. And they screwed up. It was our final PT test, and they did not track me when I came in.
Of course.
So they're like, okay, 13:30. And I was like, no, I earned those, 15 seconds
back.
or whatever, you bastards.
And that's a big deal. So, so as far as like just advice to anybody that might be listening about to go to BCT, whether you're going in as officer candidate or enlisted, I would always remember the drill sergeant saying the physical fitness is the one thing you can help. Like, just take care of that at a bare minimum. At least go there, in shape and condition yourself. So that's one thing. And then just understand that it's just a mind game, and that the best way to get through it is just to freaking graduate and not claim any false injuries and just quit. I mean, I had a lot of people in my platoon quit. One guy went all the way up to like I think week 8, and he just finally said, I can't do this anymore. I'm like, you gotta be kidding me, man. Like, you got 4 weeks left and then it's over.
Right.
But it's not for everybody, and that's the whole point of basic. But yeah, just for me, you know, obviously this is my second run. I got to go through Air Force basic training, if you want to call it that. I'll invite any
summer camp, whatever you want to call it.
Summer camp. And then kind of in your situation, like, man, I'm 30, I'm about to do this crap again, and I'm going in as an NCO as an E5. So that was fun. And I was just like, man, I got just the biggest target on my back. But and like I said, I'll go through my stuff at some other point. But I definitely remembered that was the only time I joined CrossFit, just so I can get into running and lifting crazy crap and doing all kinds of weird stuff that really helped. And then just that mind game, like, man, I'm going to be in there with a bunch of kids. And no offense to the kids out there, but I mean, I feel like they just don't get it. The smarter ones do, the ones that see the bigger picture. But there's a lot of people that just had a hardest time, like, just following simple orders and commands. It drove me crazy. Like you said, you want to strangle some kids sometimes. I was definitely there too. But let's move on to post BCT. So you graduated, what you said, like May 2014?
I actually finished. I started in May and ended in August, I think, something like that.
Oh man, so you had the summertime.
All summertime. Yeah, we had people falling out like crazy. We actually had our final ruck march. That was 10 or 12 miles, whatever it is.
It's 12 miles.
They had us do it starting at like 10 o'clock at night or something like that. So 2,200 to start it, which is crazy. But the only reason they did it is because there was an actual drill sergeant that fell out in the cycle before when they started at the normal time.
Really?
So we rucked through a good part of the night and then stopped for a while and then finished it out. And we had the biggest thing that drove me nuts about that was, like you said, the kids that were just kind of half-assing everything. And it was like, man, come on, you're 18, 19, 20 years old. Like, suck it up and do it.
Copping attitude too, like.
Yep, copping attitudes, or people that just like. I don't know if you ever watched Everybody Loves Raymond. There's always the joke about the like, oh, what do you have, hoofs for hands? How can you not fold a T-shirt? The same concept. Like, we've been here for 10 weeks and you still can't make your bed. So I would literally make like 3-4 beds a day, like every morning, to make sure we didn't just get tore up.
Right.
Because I was usually the one that would get crap for it. And people are like, oh, I just can't do this. Oh, this is so hard. Like, I'm trying, and I'm like, what do you mean? Like, how is that not possible? It's so easy.
It's very scary that those people are going to go off into the army and actually serve and handle weapons and.
Absolutely. And there's different jobs. There's an ass for every seat, right? So
yeah, different
jobs for everyone. There were some kids that struggled just as hard as other people did, but the difference was those people were trying their hardest, and I respected them for it. Versus the kids that were just lazy and like, we had one kid, I couldn't remember his name if my life depended on it, but he was a video game tester. So that's what he did. He'd just play video games all day and find glitches and whatever. Laziest kid ever. He actually knocked himself out the first day when we were introducing ourselves. It was hilarious. We had TVs on either side of the room, and he stood up all spazzy and knocked his head on it. And he didn't completely go out, but he like dropped to the floor and then popped right back up. And they they asked him whatever question they'd already asked him, and he just said numbers. Cool. And the drill sergeant just looked at him. What the F did you just say? Can you please repeat the question? And we're all looking like, what just happened right now? And we felt bad because we didn't know he was that big of a turd yet. But then there was another kid that was just struggled at everything. He was one of those people, he couldn't hit the broadside of a barn with a rifle. He had trouble making his bed. He had trouble doing everything physical, but he always tried. He tried his butt off. And that's actually one kid that I almost got in a physical fight with someone that was giving him crap because it pissed me off so bad. I'm like, he's working. Yes, he's having struggles. Yes, he's crying because he misses his wife, and he has a kid also. Yeah. So he's literally crying about that. I'm like, don't give him crap. Go off and do whatever it is that you do. Leave him alone. Nice. And I almost got in a fight with like a 22-year-old over him. But when I met his wife the day we graduated, it was one of those, like, I put my arm around him, like, hey, he kicked butt. He did a really good job. And he started to tear up again. I'm like, no, do not cry right now. Do that. Lock it up, man. And he's like, I literally had to straighten out his shirt for him and straighten out his belt because it was all jacked up like a 5-year-old had tucked it. And I was like, all right, come here, buddy. We're going to get you squared away for graduation day. And his wife like almost started to cry because she could tell it was like a huge deal for him. So that's awesome. It's all about how much effort you put in. So even if you are kind of a natural screw up, if you're trying hard, people will carry you along. Yeah, so you just got to put in that effort and make it seem worthwhile for them to do so. And yeah, I mean, I had some soldiers that I kind of mentored just because, again, older. And I got treated a little bit differently because I was an NCO, thankfully, towards, I think, like whiteface. Yeah. And so I used to, I don't know if you remember, like, the wall lockers, but they had us, because I bunked with another NCO, and they had us, like, kind of section off our own little area. And that was, like, because we were supposed to be separate from the junior enlisted, I guess. And
it became like a therapy corner. I'd go to hang out, just unwind from the day or whatever.
With your phone?
With my phone, because I got that back. And I would just, like, kid after kid would come talk to me, like, over, the randomest of stuff, like they're homesick or they're not sure what to do about this or that. And I was just remember, like, hey man, like, we're only here for like 5 more weeks, just tough it out. And who knows, I turned into like an older brother type of thing. And having them introduce me to their family members, like, oh, this is Sergeant Damon, the guy I was telling you about. And I was like, oh man, I'm gonna have some feels right now. So that told me, and we'll get to this, like, maybe the officer route was the right choice. Like, maybe there is something for me there. But turning it back onto you and moving back into after BCT, what did you do in the meantime? So and this is where we kind of deviate, being in the National Guard versus being active Army.
Right.
So now we have to kind of just hang out in RSP, was it?
Yeah, Recruit Sustainment Program.
Yeah, so what'd you do?
I went back for probably, I think, 2 months or something like that before I started OCS, because at that point in time, as you remember, OCS actually had like a 0 phase. So, or at least last I heard, it could be different now, but they had like one drill, and then they started the actual phase 1, 2, 3, versus before we were there I got there in December, I think it was, and we didn't actually start phase 1 until April.
Kind of just chilled till March.
Yeah, so and it wasn't too bad at that point, right? Because the RSP ones were super chill. It was almost like a normal drill, just with a bunch of people that didn't know what was going on, myself included. So that was fun. Sorry, random tangent here, but there was a kid with a tattoo across his chest, side to side, that said YOLO, and one of the O's was a diamond.
Are you serious?
I saw he's a sergeant now,
right.
But I saw him and I was like, oh, good Lord, you are a winner.
You sir are a winner. Oh man, would you say an RSP or like what did
that was at RSP, yeah.
Gotcha.
And they were all making fun of him. They were all the same age, just giving him all kinds of crap about him. Like, well, you asked for it, so. But yeah, so at RSP we did, learning the Army values and learning the Soldier's Creed and all that kind of stuff. But then once OCS started, it was OCS light, obviously, at that point. So there wasn't any big, I won't say hazing, because there's no hazing in the Army, of course.
Of course not. Not at all.
Just stupid stuff constantly and never being right. And I always tell people the difference between basic training and OCS was basic training is get from A to B and do it faster and do it faster and do it faster and do it better. And you'd still never win, but at least you get faster and better at it. Whereas OCS would be like, get from A to E. I'm not going to tell you the points in between, but if you screw it up, I'm going to kill you. It's like, oh my God, I have no idea what's going on. So that's the difference.
That's a really good way to put it. Yeah, so pre-0 phase, December through February, we're just kind of chilling there. We're waiting at the RTI, at the Regional Training Institute in Arizona. Kind of just, I remember we were supposed to knock out our CBTs and whatever other like trainings that we could just to get ready for 0 phase, which was March. That's when, I'm not going to name them, but that's when the major said, hey, that's when the festivities began.
Yeah.
And we were like, oh man, we're going to get just destroyed.
And we did.
Yeah. So let's talk about that. So actually, before that, preparing for the board, what was that like?
I went in thinking I had a good idea of what their questions would be, and I didn't. I just remember them asking like, what makes you want to be an officer? And I told them the same exact thing and said, hey, I have experience. I have the degree, which is just one of the prerequisites, but more importantly, I have the leadership experience in real life, and I help train people, and I think I'm pretty good at that part of it. And they're like, no, but why do you want to be an officer? I was like, I don't have any other answer for you.
Please don't ask me again.
I don't know what you want me to say here. And I literally told them, like, I'm not sure what else to say. And they're like, think about it. And just deadpan, nothing else. I was like, oh crap, maybe I didn't make it right now. Like, I don't know what just happened. I don't even remember what the questions were that they asked or anything like that. It's been so long, but nothing was I was definitely nervous, but I wasn't terrified of it.
Right.
And I just remember the guy in front of me, he had actually legally changed his name to Sir something. I don't remember what it was. But having that guy go in, and I was wearing my uniform, right? And he was wearing like a black suit with a dark purple shirt, and his name was like Sir Edward whatever.
What?
And that dude completely made me feel more comfortable, because I was like, well, that dude's going in, either he's gonna get destroyed and take all the focus off me, or if he makes it, then I'm sure I can too.
I'm good to go.
Yeah, so
I would hope.
He actually helped calm my nerves a lot before that.
Always look toward somebody slower than you in many facets. I'm trying to remember some of the questions I got. So I just broke my finger I want to say 2-3 weeks prior. So I had to like not splint, but I had like a little cast or whatever. And same guy, Major. I'm not gonna name him just because not sure if we have clearance to do that.
Like Colonel type now.
Yeah, Colonel type. He's like, what happened to your finger there, son? And I was like, oh crap, this could be an integrity check. I'm just gonna be honest. Like, oh, I broke it playing dodgeball. And he's like, dodgeball? You couldn't come up with a better story than that? I was like, no, sir, this is what really happened. I broke it playing dodgeball. He's like, all right, well, come up with a better story next time that happens. I was like, okay, I'm off the hook. But yeah, I got the typical, like, why do you want to be an officer? Why'd you change and leave the Air Force to the Army? My answer, I think, kind of helped a lot. They like that. I was like, I want to do something tougher. So I was just, playing that a little bit. But I'm trying to remember if I did, like, any board reviews. I was pretty sure I did. I just, like, Googled board questions and just came in prepared. But I figured it was not a shoe-in, but, like, kind of like you. Like, I'm not dicked up. Like, there's no way I'm going to blow this. So just I think it was that confidence that really helped in just the prior service. But so we get into OCS, kind of go back to the original thing, the shark attack. So let's go through that. Let's relive that because that was a joy.
That was actually, I was really proud of myself because I have a really bad memory when it comes to names and things like that.
Right.
And I don't remember what my role was, if I was a team lead or what the deal was that drill. But I was in quote unquote in charge of people, and I had like 5 or 6 people or whatever. Maybe it might have been a squad leader, but they come out and we had this classroom portion of it, and we know something bad's coming.
Well, it was the UI, right? That was our
the UI, and then
they started smoking people too during that point because one guy said F yeah, or he said something with the F word.
Yep.
Yeah, and you got just drops like, oh man,
and everyone it was like, oh great, this is what we're doing.
Yeah,
perfect.
This is it's almost game on.
Yeah, and then they load us into a different classroom, and they're going through and saying like, hey, this is a serious thing. This is what you need to think about, and this that. I don't remember exactly what it was, but I remember like, oh no, this is something bad's coming.
Like it's coming.
And then they're like, all right, everybody out to the quad for something. They made it seem like it wasn't a big deal.
Yeah.
And then as soon as you get out there, you hear a cannon, and keep in mind this cannon is only like 2 feet long, something like that. But it takes little shotgun shells. And in an enclosed area, it is extremely loud.
Yeah.
And then they start playing the bullhorn sirens, and people were screaming, and I think there was a fog machine, so it was just completely disorienting. And then everyone's screaming at you, and they have so many people, and I really actually want to go back for this. I think it'd be fun now. But so many different officers and NCOs that are there just destroying you. Yeah. And people it's all like this fake flagstone in our area, as you know. But they're having us low crawl, just like dragging our bodies across this. Like, you're not low enough. Like, my face is on the ground. Like, how much lower do you want me to be? Like, I can't get any lower. It was tearing up uniforms and everything. And then they pull you aside, and everyone is not with who they started with. So there's no platoon integrity at this point. You're just everywhere. And they're like, who are your guys? And in that one moment, I was like, slow it down. You got this. You can do it. And without skipping a beat, I named all like 6 people or however many people.
Nice.
Full names. And I remember just being like, yes, like I won. And they're like, whatever, drop. And then I just got smoked anyway. But
At least you got a whatever drop. That's kind of like a win.
And there was a female officer in particular that to this day still somewhat terrifies me.
Yeah.
Just a little bit.
Major type?
Yes,
now
correct.
Major type, yep.
Yeah, exactly. And she just wrecked me after that. And I was like, but I won just for that split second.
But I got something.
For that one moment, you were like, I can't find anything wrong with this, but whatever, you're screwed anyway. So
I walked in to the classroom right before like drill actually began. And I walked in and I saw her. And she just had like the sickest, grossest look of disdain. I was like, I saw her and then I saw like the black cap. I was like, oh, I'm dead. Like, I'm not going to survive this. And I'll never forget that. That shark attack was hilarious. Not very fun going through it, but just reliving it now mentally, it was pretty funny. One guy almost died. I think they took him to the ER. We started with what, like 50 people?
I think it was, if I remember correctly, 43.
43.
And considering we finished with
13,
that's not a bad
that's pretty cool
group to be in to make it all the way through. And most of the people that quit were people that had a lot of experience. So they knew real Army, and dealing with that nonsense was just too much.
Yeah,
they were like, I'm done with this. I don't want to do anymore. Forget it.
Big boy, I can't play these games anymore. I'm tired of this crap.
I think, at least for me, I knew it was going to be stupid right from the start. I didn't know how stupid it was going to be, but I had at least an idea that I couldn't win. And so I just never knew any better. So it's kind of like, oh, this sucks, but I knew it was going to. Let's do it. And then people were like, no, I'm done with this. Screw it, I'm out.
Yeah, a lot of bell ringing after that drill. But what I remember the most, at least from the shark attack, was doing lunges forever, low crawling forever, just getting beat up. And then I think that portion ended with the log. It's big, it's heavy, it's wood. That was cool. I really liked that because if we were motivated, then not getting any names, but one of the sergeants would get really motivated too. And it was just kind of like one of those things like, well, we're here, let's at least do something right together and get this guy off our back. And I think you might know who I'm talking about, the taller one. He really dug the log. So,
and that carried through for the rest of the time with us. We realized that in the beginning it kind of pissed them off. So then we wanted to do it more, and then they were like, okay, they're motivated, so we're not that mad about it.
Yeah.
But then it became integrated into the point where we would smoke ourselves so bad our shoulders would just be garbage after that. But we all felt good about it. So it was like, okay, cool.
I remember we got over to, I think like 22 is what we were trying to get towards. And he's like, no, you guys are done. You guys are going to break yourselves. But
I'm going to go ahead and interrupt here. Producer of the show just chiming in off camera. Curious to know what a shark attack is. I know most of the people listening to the show probably are aware, but I'm currently not.
For the non-military types, shark attack, I don't honestly, where do they even get the name from?
It's just the swarm effect.
The swarm effect.
One lone sad fish just getting tore up by multiple sharks all at once.
So basically what it is, Nick, is drill sergeants will just basically beat the crap out of you guys. It's usually like an orientation type thing. And it's like Nelson said, it's to scare you, it's to intimidate you, it's to make you want to quit. But it's also to test your resolve. And I see that you pulled up a surviving a shark attack in boot camp. Yeah, it literally just says blood-infested waters patrolled by the swarm of angry drill sergeants. So it's just, again, it's just a test result, but they'll smoke you. They'll make you do all kinds of crazy stuff. They'll yell at you. If they see you breaking, they'll somehow summon 4 more, and they'll just attack you at every angle. And they just want to see what your bearing's like. They want to see if you're going to crack. And it's hysterical. Not so much while going through it, but...
Yeah, not if you're the target of it, but I have seen it before where I actually had a drill sergeant kind of rescue me from one. It was a kid directly in front of me. We're in the Chow Hall of Basic Training. And he got lit up for something. I don't remember what it was, but he denied whatever it was, and he was obviously incorrect. Oh, it was shaving his hairline.
Right.
Because he had a shaving profile, so he had an electric razor. And they lined up the edges on his hair. And they asked him, and he said no, but it was obvious because he was the only one with perfect shaved hairline. And it was just the one going at him, and then another one, and then another from every angle. And it was like, oh, God, no.
It's just like come out of nowhere.
And I'm directly behind him with an empty tray, like just food scraps on it. And I'm like, oh, God, please don't drag me into this. And another drill sergeant came and like pointed, and I was like, skirt, and just took off. And I was like, I'm out of here.
See ya.
Thanks.
Yeah, we could talk all day about the shark attack and maybe another time, but let's kind of go into zero phase because that initiated zero phase, and the whole point of that 3 months, March, April, and May, was to prepare us for phase 1 and really just get rid of the people that weren't there for the right reasons or weren't going to stick it out. So what did we end up doing? We ended up going to Florence. We did land nav. We did like an APFT every single drill. Nothing we could do was right. It was just like, man, this is going to be like my life for the next 18 months. This sucks. But
we did the APFT like 4 hours after our original shark attack because we were up until 1 in the morning, 2 in the morning, and then at 06 we were out there doing APFT, and surprisingly not as many people failed as I thought. Yeah. I was toast, I still passed, but it was not a good score by any means. But I just remember being like, can they do this? This doesn't seem like it's right. Like someone's gonna get hurt.
Can they not smoke us before they have us do an APFT? Excuse me. I was going to say they also threw on like a 2 mile ruck march on Sunday morning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're all just, our bodies are shredded and they're like, all right, let's go ruck. Like, oh, okay.
It's like, cool. What, actually, what were your thoughts after that drill when they finally released us to go home?
I knew that something big was going to happen. And I definitely know there was a lot of doubt, but I was secretly hoping in the back of my mind, okay, that was like a one-shot deal. It's not going to be this bad. Like, they can't possibly have this many festivities every single drill. And I just kept telling myself that, hoping it was correct.
Like, this is going to be forever.
And then come to find out that it wasn't that bad, but there was just so much stupid crap that we had to do every time, and just redoing stuff that we had already done, and trying to get so many different personalities. And our class was older, as you know. Like, we were, I think you and I both fell like right in the middle average-wise. There were some people in their 20s. There were some people in their mid-30s. And we were, I think 32 was the average age.
Yeah.
So it was a lot of people that had life experience, people that were business owners, people that just had careers and all that kind of stuff. So you get a lot of opinions and a lot of strong opinions. Luckily, it was a good group of people for the most part. We had some people that clashed, but overall, I think we had some big clashes. But for the most part, the overall group got along well.
Yeah, especially towards the later phases where we're obviously here for the duration. And I think that's probably what helped is like I made it this far. I'm not going to quit, and obviously the next 14, 15 people with us are going to follow suit. So it made us easier to get along. And I remember our buddy, I think you know who I'm talking about, the one that's the troll. Again, we'll find out if we can do names.
Currently deployed?
Currently deployed, yeah. Infantry type, right?
Currently still trolling, even from deployment.
Oh, of course. I don't think he can stop. In fact, I'm curious to see how he's going to troll this. That's how I'll know I did well if he just finds it on his own. But I remember he said from the beginning, he's like, hey, guys, it's really important that we like hang out with each other and get to know each other because he was a fireman, right? Mm-hmm. So going through their training process, like he said, that's what we did. And it really helped. And it's funny that it came from him of all people because he's the most driest, coldest SOB that I've ever met, but he really did have a good point. So again, just a good takeaway is just if you're currently in OCS, at least on the state level, like get to know your guys and like them and be friends because you guys are gonna have to be going through a lot of crap together.
The cool part about that too is that even though you and myself and a couple other people are probably the most terrible people to each other, like just our terrible humor, and it doesn't help that we have really dark sense of humor.
Definitely not.
But I know that if something went down, there's a handful of you guys I could call and be like, hey, I'm in a really bad situation. Whether it's a bar fight or a personal issue or whatever, that I could call and be like, hey, something's going on. Can you help me out? And I could count on you. So that was pretty cool.
I mean, you say that, but we'll see. I'm just kidding. No, for sure. And there's something about that endearment, I guess, that OCS will produce. But so, I mean, we're in phase 0. We move on to phase 1. And so I guess we can probably kind of outline how it works. So you go to OCS on the state level. There's 3 months of 0 phase where they're just trying to make sure that you actually want to be there. And then they send you off to phase 1, which is 2 weeks, usually in South Dakota, at least for us in Arizona, where I want to say just beat the crap out of you even more.
It's like Hell Week for 2 weeks in a row.
Yeah. So, and this is where we kind of deviate from other people. Like we both ended up going to Connecticut. Do you want to get into why?
Yeah, so at least in my situation, I actually went to South Dakota, and on the way there, I got a call finding out that my grandfather had cancer, which was a gut punch, like as I'm riding the bus to the actual Fort Meade, and I was like, oh man, that really sucks. But then, honestly, I kind of got so distracted by all the other stuff coming up that I kind of lost sight of that for a minute.
Right.
And then I think it was day 3 or day 4 after we'd already gone through like their big shark attack smoke fest, which was actually kind of cool. At least part of it was.
Because they played music, right?
They did, yeah. They played the Dropkick Murphys, and they tell you, hey, you're going to be the next generation of officers if you make it, and this, that, and the other.
So they gave you some motivation before beating the crap out of you senselessly.
Yeah. They're like, about face, and you turn around, and Dropkick Murphys blast, and it's just, I think for the next 2 hours, just getting destroyed. But that initial, like, the music in the beginning, I think they played at least a good intro of the song, or a good part of the song. And it was like, I'm getting the crap kicked out of me, but I'm not completely mad about it.
Right.
But after making it through all that stuff, I got another call, or actually one of our state people was actually in my platoon, one of our techs, and he's like, hey, buddy, I got to talk to you. And I'm like, this is not good.
This doesn't bode well.
Hey, buddy is not a phrase I want to hear right now. This is really terrifying. And this, keep in mind, this is when we're getting ready in the morning, and they're like stealing rifles from people and just trying to hem people up for dumb stuff. And I got pulled aside, and my wife was actually pregnant at the time. And she was about halfway along and found out that she lost a baby. So I went and talked to the chaplain, went and talked to the colonel that was in charge, and I was like, hey, this is what I have going on. My wife's bawling her eyes out, and I'm trying to, I'm a soldier, I don't cry, but I'm trying not to cry myself.
Right.
And they're like, hey, your marks so far have been good. We have no issue with you coming back again. We'd love to have you, but you're probably gonna have to wait a year to do it. And at that point, I was like, well, family's first. Like, I got to do what I got to do. And the chaplain, I still have a ton of respect for the chaplain corps because they were a big part of me making that decision. So you're already a few days in, it's going to have a big impact on you. And my wife actually told me, like, hey, there's nothing you can do about it. Just stay and finish what you're doing. And I was like, I don't want to do that. So I went home a few days into it. And I actually had to stay for almost the entire day because I couldn't get a flight out. And Fort Meade is it's near Sturgis, South Dakota. If you're a motorcycle person, you'll know that town, but that's the only thing that happens there really is the motorcycle rally. So there's one airport And it was like what was that show, Wings, where one guy worked at multiple counters, multiple different airlines. And so I sat there with all my stuff, and I had to stay with it. I couldn't even like go to like get food or whatever unless I carried all my crap with me. So I sat there, and I not realizing that the guy that was working at the window I needed was next door at the other window. I was just sat there
Doing
for
other
hours.
stuff.
Yeah, sat there for hours. So I left early, and then it worked out that Damon and I, Steve and I, ended up going to Camp Niantic. So that was interesting.
Yeah, so that was Connecticut. And were you given the option? Like,
as far as I knew, I was gonna have to wait a year. I was really bummed about that, but it was my decision. I said what I said. I did what I did.
right.
So I kind of owned that, and I was like, it's gonna suck because I have to sit and watch my entire peer group go on and finish up by that point. But I got a phone call from one of the NCOs and said, hey, we have the opportunity to go here. Damon's gonna be doing there as well. I was like, yeah. And so I think it was like 28 days or something like that in between those two cycles. And I was like, oh my God, I hate my life. I'm going through this personal stuff right now that's already like super draining.
Right.
I did not realize how emotional that would be. It makes sense now, but to go through that and then to reset and know that I have to repack all my stuff, which doesn't seem like a big deal, but it's like such a mind F to do that all. I'm like, all right, let's go. And my wife's like, I'm glad you got to do it again. Just go focus on that, whatever. So I just kind of reset, and then we went, and that was a whole different experience.
So yeah, with me and Camp Niantic, so I got injured just before you guys were supposed to ship out to South Dakota.
Dodgeball.
Yeah, and I was actually hiking, and I just remembered, like, I hate to admit this, but I was like, oh man, this is my potential chance out, because I really just wasn't feeling it. And I was like, well, it's nothing I can help, so I can't be mad at myself if extenuating circumstances took me out of this program.
Life did it to me. It's not my fault.
Yeah, complete chicken shit stuff. And but I remember when I saw the major, the medic, he's checking my knee out, looking at my MRI scan or whatever. So I'm gonna take whatever doctor crap I had to deal with. He's like, yeah, you can't go. And then as soon as like I felt that, I was like, oh shit! Like I almost started crying. I got like really like teared up. I was like, are you? Wow, I was not expecting this.
You can't take this from me, even though I almost gave it to you 5 minutes ago.
And that was the thing, is like, I must really, truly want this, because like, I don't know, that was such a punch to the gut. I was like, wow. And I was just like completely just like lost. And I remember walking out of there, and Sergeant that called me up, he was like, hey, heard about you, Damon, but I know you'll be good to go in a couple of weeks. If I can work my magic, would you be willing to do phase 1 in Connecticut? And he just said, hell yeah, or I said, yeah, to somebody who I was terrified of, even though he was like not attack.
He was our safe zone. Actually,
yeah, he was our safe zone, but I was, I'm so sorry, Sergeant. Yes, I will absolutely go. And at that point, I was like, yeah, I'm not quitting, no matter what. Like, I clearly want this. I can't believe I had that weak moment, but found out you were going to. I was like, what the hell happened to Nelson? Which I later found out. I was like, it's pretty rough, but I don't know. Like, Niantic was different, and that's like where we vary from our other classmates that we graduated with. And it was just 2 weeks of, looking back, I don't think it was that terrible, but I just remember getting beat the hell up a lot. And
swampy nastiness, freezing in the morning, just balls hot the rest of the day.
Yeah, very humid, and land nav was a blast going through that freaking jungle or whatever the hell that crap was. Yeah. I got stuck in a swamp. I almost died in a swamp. That was fun. Quicksand's a real thing, or whatever the hell that was that I fell into. But I just remember like walking out of there, like when we were flying home, just thinking like, did I learn anything? Like, I just learned I'm tougher than I thought I was. Like, I learned how to take a beating, but I don't feel like I took anything special away. What about you?
No, I do have one. I'm full of random stories. You know this already.
That's what it's all about, man.
But Niantic is in New Lyme, Connecticut, which is like the home of Lyme disease.
Yeah,
ticks are crazy, and they warn you over and over about ticks. Like, check yourself. They like creases in the body, elbows, back,
hot
legs,
spots,
hot spots, your groin, whatever. And I remember going through, and keep in mind we don't get to shower as often as we'd like, and we're just sweating constantly. And just gross, like you're soaked by the end of the day, and then you freeze your butt off after. But I remember walking through, and I'm like, oh man, I have like this irritation in my crotch, and it's in a place where I can't see, and it's either an ingrown hair or I have a tick, and I was terrified. So I in a porta-john, and of course they make you go into the porta potty with all your crap on,
and take flicking your canteens, and you're just like a Ninja Turtle trying to.
Yeah, exactly. So I take everything off, and I have like one leg up on the toilet, and I'm like trying to look basically, pardon my language, under my ball sack to see what's going on. And I couldn't tell. All I felt was a bump. So I'm like, it could be a tick, and whatever. So I went to the medic, and they're like, all right, drop your pants. And I started putting my leg up on the little bench in the back of the Humvee. It's got little big clamshell Humvees. I put my leg up, and this guy's telling me how he's actually doing an interstate transfer to Phoenix, so I might see him again. I'm like, oh, even better. And I'm lifting up, my testicles so he can look underneath. He's like, nope, just an ingrown hair. You might want to pop that. And I was like, I'm relieved and mortified.
So
and this
never
is
gonna
so
forget this for the rest of my
painful.
life.
Yeah, exactly.
Did he interstate transfer? Like,
I never saw him again.
No.
Yeah. Thank God.
Yeah, I don't know how you look at a man differently with that kind of experience. Yeah, I'm trying to remember. I had another proving moment in Niantic during the stupid land nav, and this is why the Lost LT is so perfect, because I failed land nav the first time. I hate saying that again, but yeah,
What a loser.
I know I was one of those guys. And again, I was like, I don't understand. Actually, that's when I fell in the damn swamp. I think that's why I did, because I lost so much time in there. And I just remember thinking, okay, like, this was your second chance. Are you really going to go home and let Sergeant so-and-so down because he pulled his magic free? Like, what's that say about Arizona? Like, I just ripped into myself, probably worse than any TAC ever could. And I just remember doing the makeup and just charging through and just making sure I did everything correctly. And again, it was one of those moments like, okay, yeah, I'm going to go home. I'll endure phase 2. Phase 3 is probably going to be easy compared to this. I'm going to make sure I graduate. But a lot of my stuff was just self-motivated. And the reason why I said something earlier to the effect of your wife saying 2 really awesome things, was it during phase 1 that she said what you know what I'm talking about?
It was, yeah, just after phase 1. We came back, and one of the guys, he's a good friend, but he always catastrophizes everything. He's like, oh, it's only going to get worse from here. Oh, it's so bad. I'm like, man, F this. I don't know if I can do it, whatever.
I know what you're talking about.
And also deployed or on his way out.
Yep.
And just telling my wife, I started looking on the National Guard website and seeing what enlisted jobs there were, because I think they had me slotted as an 88 mic or a truck driver if I didn't make it through OCS, and they didn't give me that choice. They just put it there. So I told my wife, I'm like, hey, there's some enlisted jobs I'm thinking about going for, and she told me, I'm trying to remember exactly what she said, but basically to the effect of, I didn't marry a quitter, but do whatever you want to do.
Yeah.
And that cut so deep. She to this day does not remember what I'm talking about, but it etched itself into my brain. And it was like, well, I can't quit now. If not even it has nothing to do with me anymore, it has to not quitting on my family, essentially.
Right.
So that stuck with me for sure. And after that, I was like, well, I can't quit now. There's no stopping. Just got to keep powering through. And it actually got easier after that. Or it got different. So.
Yeah, there was something about the drill after phase 1 when we got back where we were still getting lit up for stupid stuff, and it was like, this doesn't end, does it? Like, I got really upset. And I just remember, like, we were doing flutter kicks for days, and it was raining, and it was my then girlfriend at the time's like birthday. I was like, I could be doing something else, like, except I'm here. And then, but I started to think about, like, you little shit. Like, you thought about, like, how many times you're gonna quit, and you didn't. So I pulled myself out of that. But I didn't marry a quitter, but do what you want to do. That's like saying, yeah, you can go out with your friends. Yeah, you can make that choice. Like, it's such a trap. But
make good choices. Like,
yeah, you're like, I guess I'm gonna do this then. Not ring that bell. For the sake of time, I do want to kind of, I don't want to say breeze through phase 2, but that was essentially like the academic portion. It was, things were getting better. We were starting to get a rhythm. Mm-hmm. And I think that's where, like, when people say state OCS is tough, it's because it's during that point. It's like 12 months?
Right.
We got back in July.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, we came back in July. It wasn't 12 months. July, and then phase 3 started in March. So a considerable amount of time for, I don't want to say the mundane to happen, but it's like, okay, we're getting we're being like fed information through a fire hose about op boards and like terrain association, all this other crap I'm just like pulling completely out of my ass right now. But it was like, it was impossible to stay awake in class. We got scuffed up for any reason, just because. And I don't want to say like that was the less effective phase for me, but when you're looking at that and you have a chance to quit and you can say, I can end this anytime, I think that's like the hardest part. And that's when life would happen. And I remember like my recruiter asking, or I would ask my recruiter, like, why do people quit, or why do they drop out? Why is it such a selective program? Why do they say like 1 in every 4 make it? And he's like, well, because it's a long time and life generally happens. And I'm trying to remember like why some of the guys that we started with that made it through phase 1 quit. But a lot of it was just like, oh, I'm moving, or it's not working out, or like job situations or something like that.
For the most part, not everyone, but most of the people that made it through phase 1 stuck it out. I think what do we have? Probably like 16 or something like that, and then only a couple fell off during. I could be wrong. I could be remembering that incorrectly. But
one guy took himself out by getting a DUI, so that was smart.
He was good too. Like that, I was really bummed for him because he got talked into a bad decision by a girl and by a female. Damn it.
Dang.
And he knew he was doing something wrong, and he got caught, and he was done. So I felt bad for him. But I think another guy left the state, if I remember correctly, and some other stuff. But
yeah,
it was kind of the least intense of the phases. There was dumb stuff happening, and at this point, they'd say, "Hey, put on your gloves," and we knew we were going to go outside and get smoked just because people had, gotten such bad blisters from the Arizona heat on the asphalt or the concrete that they'd been blistered really bad, but. So we knew stuff was coming, but it was more routine at that point. It was like, okay, hey, I'm gonna get screwed up now. Like,
it's 14:30. We got to get scuffed up for an hour.
It's gonna happen at some point. Yeah. Oh, we ate 2 meals today. I don't know why. We're gonna get scuffed up for that.
Or my favorite is like, oh, we all saluted a colonel with on one knee.
Yes.
Who just so happens to be the line component commander now.
Correct.
Yeah. General type.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a fun one. Was that when we were just told get out because the class before the senior class was just going to get murdered? They're like just go, get out now. You don't want to be caught in this crossfire.
I don't remember if that was the same time or not, but I just remember we were on the PT field and we just got done. He came out just to kind of do his rounds and say, hey, we kind of care about you.
He gave a pretty good speech too. Like it was, I liked it. He said just something about like, you guys like the future of the Army and we want you to be strong. That's why we beat the crap out of you and we want you guys to be the best officers that you can because y'all matter. And I was like, oh, well, yay.
You remember that better than I do, to be honest with you. I don't remember random crap that doesn't matter, but yeah, I just remember them. Okay, and he, whatever happened, and everyone saluted. And some people.
Well, we took a knee to listen to him speak. He gave us a good football coach prep talk, and then he saluted us, and we're just like, what do we do? So
that's what threw us off. Is he saluted us, which was weird, but it's just not typical. One person was actually like laying down, which I was surprised at, and he's actually a pretty high speed dude, which is the funny part now thinking back at it. But saluted from a leaning, laying down on one elbow type deal, and people were on one knee, and like
one guy sitting down like Indian style, and yeah,
it's like. And I remember the then major, now colonel type, just saying like, oh, you guys are going to pay for this later, and then walking away, and we're just like, no, this is so bad.
Yeah, one of the TAC sergeants was like, yeah, we'll take care of it, don't worry. And we're just like, oh man, we're dead. and the fact that they were laughing their asses off as this happens, like, oh, we are so done. And I remember like, this is probably one of my favorite memories from phase 2 was as we were lining up to go from the classroom to the quad, the senior class was getting ready, and they knew that they're going to get messed up too. And the PL at the time was like, all right, you guys ready? We're gonna get it right now. And he's like, those of us who are about to die salute you. And he like opens the door and we like go out there and we just get destroyed. But yeah, the right thing to have done was to stand up and salute, especially if
from the position of attention, salute, and then wait for him to drop it before we do.
Yeah, that was a good time. But yeah, phase 2, mostly academic stuff. I want to say that's when we just get into the how to be an officer. But I feel like...
Kind of.
Yeah. I feel like a lot of it's just like OJT, just on the job training. But also phase 3 was probably, I feel like, the most effective portion of the program. And that was, Fort... man, I can't think right now. It was in Washington.
Oh, Joint Base Lewis McChord.
Yeah, there we go. I should know that.
It was actually a beautiful place.
Yeah.
Even though we froze our butts off a little bit at night, I remember waking up to a slug falling on my face because I was sleeping under a tree, and I thought I'd drool. I'll admit that. I thought I drooled, so I went to like wipe off my mouth, and it was a slug.
Lovely.
And that wasn't the only time that happened. I just remember being more like, oh, what the hell is going on? But yeah, it was overall a beautiful place.
Yeah, what was your role there? Did you get assigned a position?
I got assigned a couple different positions, but for the most part, I was a 240 gunner. So I just lugged around.
That's all I did too.
240 Bravo.
Yeah, I named her Brienne from Game of Thrones, which you're not gonna know about. But
sorry.
It was fun. It was fun shooting the thing, even though it was blanks. It was a good time. So phase three, I mean, that was sticks lanes. That was like the biggest thing, right?
Over and over and over all day long.
And what was that essentially? Just
it was, what did we get? 15 minutes to receive the the operation order, and then another, like, I think you got an hour start to finish. So if you took 15 minutes to plan, then you got 45 minutes to execute it. And that seems like a good amount of time.
It's really not.
But it was fast and furious the entire time. And getting there, I remember thinking, like, I'm so not prepared for this. I feel like I have no idea what I'm doing still. And we came to find out that, in general, Arizona, California, and Texas have a good program. And I didn't know this. I just thought we got beat up all the time.
Yeah.
And getting there and seeing how jacked up some of the other people were, I'm like, maybe I do know a couple things. Like, all right, I'm just gonna see what I can do here and go for it. And luckily, I actually beat myself up on my my lane that I did that I actually qualified for. Because you what did we do? Like a timed short course deal that was like a half an hour or something like that, where we had, or maybe it was an hour also, but we had like some obstacle we had to accomplish.
The leader's reaction course.
Yeah, the leader's reaction course. So we do that, and I know we had to build like a bridge out and roll some barrels across it, which we failed at by like just barely, by like a minute.
Right.
So I was pretty bummed about that part, but luckily that wasn't really graded. It was just kind of a trial thing. But my actual lane, I beat myself over big time because we missed our objective. We actually went right past it and then came back to it. So we actually crossed over this objective line, I think a total of 3 times. Because it was like, oh, we missed it. Damn, we got to go back and find it. Oh, we just crossed over again. Damn it. And then I ended up on the other side of it. And then I got critiqued for using a 240 to be the weapon to use. Because when we originally asked for it, they said, if you want anything, it has to be before we leave this, brief. And I remember turning away. I didn't even pick up one of my feet from the ground. I just kind of pivoted and turned my head, and then I turned back and I said, I need a claymore. And they're like, too late. I was like, oh no. So a little mini mortar. So like, nope, too late. So I ended up opening up with a machine gun instead. And one of the guys that was there for training purpose actually fell on the ground. And after, when we're going through our brief, he's like, no, that was real. You scared the crap out of me. He goes, I think I had a little PTSD moment there. And I was like, I'm really sorry, man. Because we had a bunch of guys that were rangers that were helping us out.
Yeah.
So he's like, you legitimately, I almost crapped my pants. I was like, really sorry, man.
Sorry about that. Yeah. And that was, so phase 3, I mean, they were pretty much operating as lieutenants are, at least in the infantry setting. As far as training goes, and as far as like just getting our feet wet. But that's when we take everything that we've learned from phase 1, phase 2, and put it all together. So when you're saying, oh, I'm using my 240 for this, like they're saying, here's your mission. You're going to do an assault or react to contact or any number of scenarios. And then you decide between you and your squad who's going to do what, who's got what role, where you're going to go. And it's just like the culminating training that determines if we get goad or no goad. And we had 2 chances, I think.
Correct.
To get to go.
Every time you failed, it got harder. So they would put you in charge of a bigger element. So you started out at squad level, which is what I passed at. If you didn't pass that, you got a platoon level. If you didn't pass that, you got a company level. Which, when you're talking bigger numbers, that's it. It's a failing proposition to go bigger from where you start out at.
Yeah, more.
And we saw that, unfortunately, with a few people. Yeah,
and what do you call it? It's just more points of failure at that point. Mm-hmm. That's a better way to put it. But yeah, so I just remembered. Fortunately, I go'd my first time because I shit the bed the second time. we were supposed to basically it was react to contacts and basically just move until we get assaulted. And as I was receiving the op word from the captain, we hear incoming mortars. So like, oh, that must be the other lane. Because like we're in timeout right now. So I'm looking at her, I'm like, okay, what else do I need? And she's just staring at me like, the hell are you doing?
Are you special right now?
Yeah, I definitely got the are you special look. And I was like, well, yeah, I mean, we have rules that you've established that we're going to play by. So until you say go, I'm going to ignore the fact that we're actually getting attacked right now. So she had to spell it out. She's like, you are getting attacked right now. What are you going to do? I was like, oh crap. So we just ran towards it. Because you're not supposed to,
like
stay still.
Warrior.
Well, it's either run back or towards. And yeah, that was just a messed up lane. But thankfully, that was my second one, and I already I already got my go the first time. So I was like, God, that was bad. And then the takeaway for that was like, there's no such thing as rules ever. And it was kind of cool that they threw that curveball on me, because that was a good takeaway. Like, I hate that I shit the bed the way I did, but at the same time, like, okay, well, at least I know from now on, just because they say something's supposed to be a certain way doesn't mean it's going to end up that way. And you have to be able to adapt and act fast. And boy, did I not do that time.
Well, they even told us when we got there, like, we're not here to f with you anymore. That's not our goal.
Yeah.
You guys are going to f yourselves up. That is the quote that I got.
That's literally what I did.
And I was like, oh, perfect. We've been doing that this entire time.
Yep.
This isn't getting any better, is it? But
yeah, no, it was good. And like I said, they treated us a lot better. I don't think we got smoked a single time. We just smoked ourselves by doing stick lanes 5 times a day. I mean, we just really got beat up, but in a productive, kind of fun way. Like, some of those things were fun, especially just playing war. My favorite part was just ambushing the city. That was the coolest thing ever.
we wasted so many blank ammo rounds.
Yes.
Insane. Just people, I got in trouble for hip firing a 240 Bravo. They're like, that is not safe to ever do that again.
Rambo,
I'm like, it was so awesome, though. Did you see it?
But it was so cool. Yeah, I think I did it too, actually. I pulled Rambo just because I couldn't get
only
set.
Like a handful of guys can actually hold a 240 Bravo up to their shoulder like a regular rifle, because they're heavy.
I saw one guy do that, and I was like, my God, that was incredible. Yeah, we'll probably get into 6 lanes later on this podcast. It really just depends on like what people who are listening want to know more about. That's kind of, we're just like slowly touching on these really like technical subjects. But all in all, like, was there any like rough moments for you in phase 3?
I don't think so at that point. I just remember them telling us, thank God we're not grading you on your tactics. They said it over and over and over, because everyone was screwing everything up, but we were getting through it. And probably the toughest part was my back was really bothering me from like early on. And I think one of the first couple of days I did something, kind of tweaked it. And then it didn't help that I got blown up, quote unquote blown up. And one of the other guys in our group was a firefighter, and this guy's like your perfect male specimen, just jacked, good looking. You want to hate him, but he's such a nice guy.
This is the troll we mentioned earlier, right?
No.
Oh, okay.
No, not even close. Come on now.
Really? All right. Yeah.
But he threw me over his shoulder, and they just let him run forever with me, and my back was killing me. And I'm just bouncing on this guy's shoulder, like super uncomfortable, all my gear on, and he's just going like a champ, jumping over a log. And I'm like, oh, man, can we call it? Can we index now?
Can you tone this down a little bit?
And then I got killed again, and they dragged me for like probably a quarter of a mile. I don't know how they did it for so long, but I was impressed. Just getting rocks up my butt. It was good stuff.
Good times. Yeah, I mean, for me, phase 3 wasn't that difficult. It was, like I said, the fact that they told us, we're not here to mess with you. We're here just to kind of train you and see where you're at. That was pretty cool, because again, the pressure at that point was just on our own, self-inflicted. But as soon as I got my go, I was like, it's done. As long as I don't do anything really retarded. And boy, did I try with that second lane. I'm not going to let that go. But as long as we got that go, like, we're going home and we're commissioning. So
yeah, they did tell us, he was a sergeant first class at the time. Now he's a first sergeant. He's like, just don't screw over your buddies, because they will screw you over if you do it. So even if you pass, don't phone it in.
Don't
work
coast.
to help. Yeah, work to help the next person. That really stuck with me, because I think I was like the 3rd person to go. So I got to go the first day, and I was like, thank God I'm done. Okay, now how can I help other people out? And my assistant gunner, my A gunner, was like 100-pound wet female, and she was tiny and quiet, and she never complained the whole time, carrying extra ammo, carrying extra barrels, all that kind of stuff. Never complained the whole time. I think that motivated me also, like, in a weird way, like, okay, she's doing it, she's kicking butt. Yeah, my back's bugging me, but
she can do that, so can I.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I just remember smelling like CLP forever after that, because a bottle, like a industrial sized bottle of CLP, broke in the bag. So
Nice.
it was good. Just soaked all my stuff. It was good times.
You smell CLP and think of that now?
Yep.
You're just like, I'm back. I just remember, once all was said and done, actually, I do want to kind of deviate real fast. Remember that first night we were there, they served us like that really good food, and no one touched it.
We were terrified.
God,
like,
that
this
was
is a
hilarious.
setup. They had like steak and stuff. We're like, this is a setup for sure.
Yeah,
We're gonna end up throwing this up.
I'm gonna eat this food and stuff, or this fruit and like the bread, and not touch any of that crap. And they gave us like Pop-Tarts and like dessert, and they're like, why aren't you guys eating this?
Yeah, we're like, we're not falling for this.
We've
Nice
been
try.
through this shit for like 17 months. We're not falling for this crap. And later find out that was legit there for us. And I was like, well, it's your fault.
Well played, you bastards.
Yeah,
well played.
well done. But I just remember, we all got our goes, minus one person, unfortunately. But just like going home was like the sweetest feeling in the world. Like, it's done.
I got drunk at the airport.
Did you?
Yeah, they actually, one of the other people actually told me to pipe down a little bit. I'm like, oh, am I getting loud? Sorry. I'm really excited right now.
I'm celebrating like the coolest thing I've ever done. Yeah, so we get back from phase 3. At this point, we are pretty much essentially officers, brand new. So the TACs aren't messing with us anymore.
As much. There was one time.
Was there?
I got jacked with on my last drill.
Did you?
We got smoked because of me.
I mean, I tried to avoid that one April day for the APFT when we got smoked because of you. But what was this
we
one?
all had our moments. No, I was talking to one of the TAC sergeants, and he's like, hey, I know you guys are, in chill mode now or whatever. Just make sure you throw a sergeant in there somewhere before, during, after, whatever. And I'm like, oh, Roger, Sergeant. I apologize, whatever. Because we had a very specific way we had to address them most of the time. And we got back into the classroom. He said something to me, in front of everyone else. I replied the correct way. And then he turned around to leave and then turned back and said something else to me. And I responded with like a yes or something. I didn't say sergeant. He was like, everybody down. You guys think you can do whatever you want?
Okay.
And I was like, you son of a bitch. You did this completely on purpose. Well played.
I remember I was in the corner in the front leaning rest. I was like, you know what? It doesn't matter. It's over. But I just remember, like, I guess they had to get one more in on us. Yeah, because we had like 2 drills. One like it was like maybe an admin thing, and the other one was like sign our contracts, and the other one was graduation. And man, that was a cool day.
What day was that?
September 16th.
September 11th.
Was it?
Mm-hmm.
What? 2016. That's why I'm dumb.
Yep. So that was kind of a cool day. Just at least for me, thinking, hey, I'm basically a 9/11 high school graduate essentially, and then we commissioned on 9/11. I thought was pretty cool.
Oh yeah, so am I. So 2001 is when you graduated?
Mm-hmm.
Same. Yeah, I never thought of it like that. I was just happy to have it over with and just... What's that joke I made? Oh no, you weren't there. Never mind. It was with somebody else. I made the joke that OCS is the only thing I didn't quit. I've quit everything else. And the platoon sergeant I talked to laughed a little too hard at that. And I was like, well, that's kind of true though. But that was one of the main things. Like, that was a big goal of mine, was just to cross over into the Army, become an officer, get that commission. And once I got that, I was like, man, what else can I do? How has that changed you at all? Like, just how, like, so the question I initially phrased was, how has the gold bar changed you? Did you realize any transformative moments, or like, did you change dramatically, or, what's life been like since it's been done?
Yeah, so my wife says she's noticed a change in me, just being more direct and more short with things, which I try not to do at home.
Right.
But I am guilty of telling my 2-year-old to fix his face sometimes when he's, being a brat or whatever. So phrases like that.
Fix your face.
And my wife does call him crazy and guy and stuff like that, so that bleeds over. But I think just the whole attention to detail and planning things out more, and I do get agitated a little bit easier when stuff doesn't go according to plan. That's very simple that should. So that's kind of a negative of it.
Right.
But I do look at things kind of from a different perspective, and I've always luckily been one of those kind of cool under pressure type of people. Like if there was an accident, or it's like a literal car accident or whatever, I'm usually one like, okay, check this, check that, check the other, make sure everyone's okay. But I think that just got better, I think.
Right.
So it's a positive for sure. But from the Army side of it, I went in with a brand new gold bar saying, hey, I'm 30 whatever years old. I know better than you on a couple of things, but I'm definitely not going to be that guy like, oh, I'm a lieutenant. You just do
You're
what
not
I
gonna be
say.
that lieutenant, yeah.
Yeah, no. So I definitely absorbed as much as possible from everybody. And like my soldiers knew, like, hey, he's new. I'm a signal officer. It's a pretty technical field. Our particular training didn't go deep into our equipment that we have. Like our
I'm talking about Bullock.
Yeah, our Bullock training did not really even touch the equipment that we use every day. So I learned a lot from my soldiers, and I tried to teach them some of the other stuff that they didn't know about, some stuff that we learned in OCS, the op words and how to plan a mission and that kind of stuff. So I know that earned me a lot of points, and the fact that I'm older and have like some other life experience. Those still come to me for like financial related information, and hey, I want to start a business, but I'm not sure how to do it. How should I go about it? I'm like, well, this is where I can show you.
It's like, come here, young man.
Yeah, exactly. But it's definitely changed over time. I went from being like, hey, that new guy, and they kind of looked at me as that new guy, to where now they come to me in the absence of our commander, like, hey, sir, what should we do with this or that and the other? It's kind of a cool feeling. And I feel a hell of a lot more confident now than I ever did before, where I'm like, well, I don't really know the right answer, but this is the answer we're going to go with. Let's execute it and drive on.
It's more decisive then.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which is probably like the most important thing, right? We're always told, it's not that it doesn't have to be the right decision, but at least make a decision and then execute and then, iterate and adapt.
Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. That was a good takeaway I remember hearing. It's like, we just have to decide to be confident.
Yeah, and definitely don't be afraid to absorb what you can get from especially from your senior NCOs and just guys and gals that have been around for a long time. Because I learned stuff from them all the time, and thank God now I have some more knowledge to kind of drop here and there. And hey, what should we do for this? I'm like, oh, I hate to use that in my experience, but this is what we should do here based on what we've done before. And like, okay, sounds good, let's go. So just confidence is better, knowledge overall is better now that I have a couple years in. At one point, I was the only platoon leader in my company. Everyone left because of different deployments. So it was our commander, myself, and then everybody else. There was no other. And my commander, let's just put it this way, he tests me in the form of, hey, I didn't do this, get it done now. And this other thing, and this other thing, and this other thing, even though it was kind of my deal to do, it's on you now, ready to go.
Right.
So it's like, all right, I guess I'm going to do it, and I'm going to get it done as quick as possible and hopefully do it right and drive on. So.
Gotcha. I'll try to wrap this up to 2 more questions. And that one is, if you could do it all over again, if you had to do it all over again, what would you do differently?
I enjoy the leadership aspect of what we do. The signal specifically, I'm not saying I don't like it. It's not really my thing. I thought I would enjoy it more as a skill set I didn't have. That's why I picked it in the first place. But I tried to make the smart decision when we had our choices to make when it comes to where we branched or what we selected for our main job. And I probably would have pushed for 2 other ones heavier than signal. But I still enjoy it, and I still have learned a lot. So it's something to look at differently.
What advice would you give to somebody who just, I don't know, maybe just got selected for OCS and is about to go through all that crap that we just talked about? Granted, it was very summarized, but what advice would you give to somebody about to face that?
Deal with it. One, it is what it is, so just drive on. I hate to keep saying drive on, but just get through it. Stick with like I said, hang out with other people, get that bond going, stick with them. Don't try to headbutt. A lot of people will try to fight the system, if you will, fight the other people there, and it just doesn't work. I got, as you know, I think you're probably one of the people that put it on there. I got passive aggressive in one of my feedback comments just because I'm a very sarcastic person. So just be as direct as possible. It's just the most efficient way of doing things.
Right.
Which I've definitely taken to heart and taken with me.
You've internalized now.
Yeah, right. In a good way. But yeah, just get the job done, study hard, deal with the BS. Don't take it personally. You're going to get tore up. It's going to look like things are going wrong. Still just keep going and see what happens, because what's the worst going to happen? You get smoked. Guess what? It's going to happen either way. So
yeah, whether you're right or wrong,
you're wrong.
They'll find a reason. Yeah, I think when soldiers in my company come up to me because they're interested in the state OCS program, the first thing I say without even realizing is like, don't quit. Like that's probably the best advice I got from the upperclassmen, class 55. But and then I'd kind of go into some of the more finer things that you pretty much just encapsulated there. But yeah, just don't quit, drive on, as you say. You probably have to, just for the sake of time, end it there. But I mean, there's so much more that we could talk about, getting technical and going into like, what is a sticks lane, or what was SBOLIC like, or what was it like choosing your branch? What is a branch? Which I'm sure we can go back into in the future. But for now, man, I think we'll just kind of end it there, unless you got any final thoughts or anything
I'll
you want to
shut
throw
up
up.
finally. Yeah, I'll stop talking. I can talk all day. You know this about me. But
This is true.
no, but it's definitely fun talking about it. Like you said, we can talk about it forever, so we can readdress things at a later date if necessary.
For sure. Awesome, man. Well, thanks for being my first guest. Like I said, we have a lot of similarities, a lot of parallels, so it's kind of easy to kind of go back and forth. But looking forward to having you back on again in the future, and yeah, we'll go from there.
Perfect.
Cool. Thank you once again for tuning into the first episode of the Lost LT podcast. We hope that you found it helpful and at the very least interesting and somewhat entertaining, as both Nelson and myself shared our collective experiences as we journeyed through our commissioning path. Not every officer is the same, nor is every commissioning trek going to be the same, but through getting to know others and conversing about their experiences, we hope to paint a fairly accurate picture of what it's going to be like going through the training pipeline, earning a commission, and then finally serving as an officer in both the active and reserve components. While Nelson and myself are Signal Branch Arizona National Guard members, this podcast will feature officers across all spectrums from active duty to reserve and across all branches as well. We definitely want to provide an as accurate as possible coverage for everyone and their respective paths. If you have any feedback, guidance, or questions, please do not hesitate to reach out to me via email at thelostltpodcast@gmail.com or any of the related social media platforms. We'll be letting those be released through our social media channel, Facebook page, et cetera, et cetera. So, yeah, if you have any feedback at all, constructive comments, suggestions, we'll be happy to hear it. For now, thank you once again for checking us out, and have a great rest of your evening.